Welcome to Significant Breed Success. My name is Daniel Puder. I'm your host. Today, I'm here with, let me just tell you, this guy's a freaking rock star. You're going to love him. Craig Siegel. He's a mindset coach, performance enhancer, and an entrepreneur out of Manhattan, New York right now. Thanks for joining us, bro.
It's my pleasure, Dan. And like I was telling you earlier, I'm a huge fan of yours, and you have my word. We will manufacture magic here today for the audience.
So that's a word that we're going to use a lot: manufacturing and breakthroughs, right?
Okay.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
it's what you're up to. I absolutely love the manufacturing breakthrough concept, because people think like manufacturing, that's like an old term in the US, but it's so relevant for today with getting through challenges, getting through changing mindsets. How, let me ask you, I mean, you're an athlete, you're all buffed up on your Instagram. You got the cutest kid. Okay, I'm gonna pull up a picture for you guys watching this.
He's my nephew. I can't take full credit.
Okay. Does he look like this a little bit?
Yes.
That that's my kid.
That's so funny. They look alike.
So it's super funny, but I think he has got brown eyes and my kid's got blue eyes. Looks like so. I love it, bro. I mean, you're racing. You're a marathoner. You got your own podcast. You got your own company. Like when you were a kid, let's just bring it back. Like when you were in elementary school, did you ever think that you would be where you're at today?
Definitely not. And let me be straight up with you because I'll never sugarcoat it. I always had entrepreneurial spirit and I was ambitious. And I had this intuition that I wanted to really leave a mark on the world. But truth of the matter is that I never really knew what I wanted to do. And even as far as graduating from college, right after that, I ended up on Wall Street. But up until that point, I didn't really have a compass, so to speak. I just had a lot of great ideas, but I didn't think I'd be where I am today, to answer your question.
So, what was the first like major breakthrough that you had? Was it from a mentor? Was it sports? Was it family? Like, how did you learn how to have breakthroughs and really manufacture the life you have today?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. For me, when I started studying within and understanding the mindset, and I started studying NLP and how you can alter your map and your frame of the world and thus change your world. I started doing that right when I got out of college when I was on Wall Street, and I opened up an entire new universe for myself and what I perceived to be possible. And it was at that point that I realized that, this is going to sound kind of deep, but life isn't your understanding of the world, it's how you frame it. And by making adjustments to your perspective, there's almost nothing that you can't accomplish. You're a prime example of that, by the way.
So, I really love that. Okay, can you say that one more time? Because you talk, and real quick, you talked about NLP. A lot of people on here, if you don't know what that is, it's Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Um, I find that we're never taught that ever unless you go seek it and find some training company or a coach to actually run you through um, the methods. Like when I go speak in front of people, I raise my left hand and ask three questions when I start because I want yeses. I want to get people I want people to understand what's possible. But if they have a bunch of no's, like, no, I don't want to do this today. No, I don't want to train. No, I don't want to get somewhere. Then they're not going to actually perform at the highest level. So there's techniques and ideas on how to help people get what they want. So if you could repeat a little bit about what you just said, because that's super powerful to set a context for today.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you touched upon that because it's so accurate. One of the core values and messages with NLP is you can reprogram your brain, so to speak. And so, like, whereas in certain situations, you might have a governor on, kind of like a sports car, like you can't go past a certain speed. When I started diving deep into NLP, I started to understand that I can manufacture or create different opportunities for myself and what I was capable of. And I'll give you a quick example. When I recently got into running, which was only a couple of years back, because I had always been into weights. That's for me. That's where the magic happened in regards to fitness. I'd go to the gym and clang and bang a little bit. But when I figured out that running was very humbling and challenging for me because I had trouble finishing a mile without stopping. then I started to, bring back my NLP training and I realized that it's just my brain that thinks that I can't really do this stuff because I'm in pretty decent shape, all things considered. And then from there, I was able to bang out 4 marathons that year. And I ended up having a PR of 3:39 last November in Philly. And I attribute basically 95% of that to the mindset. Obviously, physicality is important, but I think that what you believe you can accomplish and put together a strategy, it opens up endless opportunities for you.
So I agree with you. I somebody once said sports are 90% mental, 10% physical. But it's crazy that when we're younger, they never teach us the mental aspect.
It's so true.
They tell us to have it, but I didn't really understand it until I started training with pro athletes, which if you're a pro and you don't have the mental aspect, you don't have the edge, you're never going to be the best.
Absolutely.
So you're going through, were you born in New York?
In Long Island.
So beautiful place. If you've never been, you guys, I would definitely recommend it. Good drive. What was the mindset of your parents? Like, did they teach you a bunch of this stuff, or do they look at you now and they're like, wow, how did you learn this?
So I would love to say choice one, but I think the reality is choice two. My parents are great people, hearts of gold. They loved me. They gave me unconditional love and they supported me. But when they see what I'm doing now, they're in a bit of awe. And they're basically like, I can't believe that's my son. Like, how do you speak in front of all these people so confident, always have an answer, and all the success that I've had in different businesses and also the marathons. Although they're extremely proud, it definitely surprised them because it took me after college to really, learn and dive deep into the mindset component of life. And that was something that I don't think they were too familiar with. Don't get me wrong, my dad is a very positive guy and, super optimistic and the greatest guy ever. But to dive deep into the mindset, like on what you can, achieve and whatnot, I learned that on my own later in life.
Yeah, my dad ran through some of we called our black belt emotional belief intelligence training, and he ran through it all. He goes, "Where did you learn all this?" Yeah. So I had the same thing. 2 amazing parents, super loving, supportive, but it was challenging growing up with what they called learning disabilities, which is crazy. My brain doesn't comprehend letters. It's great with numbers, but what were some of the challenges growing up that you had to really overcome to get to where you're at?
So for me, like, look, I'm not the tallest guy out there. I'm only 5'8". I was never the strongest. I always like to say I'm never the most handsome, although my family might disagree with that and my assistant. But ultimately, I always felt like I had to work hard for everything that I wanted to accomplish. Nothing really came natural to me. Like even in athletics, like I played all the sports when I was a kid, but I don't think I was really naturally super talented in anything. I had to work a little bit harder than everybody else. And, when I was growing up, that was a little bit frustrating because you see people who are just naturally gifted at certain things. Someone could not study for a test in high school. They come in, they ace it. Meanwhile, I study my ass off and, I got an 89. And that was me working super hard. I'm just giving you an example. But ultimately, as I got older, I started to appreciate, that I had to rely upon my work ethic and strategy. And now I fully embody that and I embrace that. But I think growing up, that was something that maybe I thought it was a little bit frustrating that I wasn't the most talented. But now, it shaped me and it's something I'm actually very proud of.
That's awesome. Where do you spend most of your time today?
So since my CLS, the Cultivate Lasting Symphony, the mindset coaching and the speaking has really taken off. Obviously, I'm in Manhattan right now when I'm not going for a run, which is every other day. Ultimately, on social media is where I hang out a lot right now because that's where a lot of my clients find me. And I'm always putting out content, valuable, inspirational speeches, most importantly, tangible tools for your mindset. So I would say where I hang out the most would be Instagram at Craig Siegel _CLS. YouTube channel, Craig Siegel. Also, my brand new podcast coming out the first week of January called the CLS Experience. So I've been spending a lot of time at the studio filming, and I'm super excited about that. We have a lot of big names on there, and we really dive deep into their struggles and what their mindset was. And oh, by the way, I can't wait to have you on there as well, my friend.
I would love to, bro. So I'd love to dive into NLP a little bit because
Sure.
I find that most people don't understand that. It's like first you go to like a motivational training or, like what we should have in, like I own private schools now. So to be able to dive into a mindset of a kid not wanting to come to school or homeless or in foster care, we show them and help them create their vision, show them what's possible, help them create their vision, live in purpose, commit, follow through, build a team. So we do a lot of this with kids starting in 6th grade. And some of our kids are homeless. Like it is such a blessing to be able to see, what we're able to do. But if they didn't have, mentors and coaches and people to train them, I find that, they get to 25, 30, and then they're started looking around because they're not fulfilled. Maybe they're making a little bit of money, or maybe they're still broke because they have to pay college off. Where did the NLP really start affecting you, and how? And then how do you bring that to the world through CLS? Like, tell me a little bit more about CLS and how you use NLP in that.
So it's such a phenomenal question, and I love what you're doing, and I appreciate it, by the way. And I just want to say that everything that you teach in young kids is exactly right. And I'm actually working on my foundation called Special People Rise, which is going to be available, hoping towards mid to end 2021. And it's a little similar. It has to do with mentoring underprivileged kids at an early age, because just like you just said, I couldn't agree more. It's so important for young kids when they're really a sponge and they're absorbing all that knowledge to really have mentorship and a compass at an early age. So I love that you're doing that. In regards to the other question, what NLP, when I first got introduced to it, what really stuck out to me, Dan, is that I wasn't always this confident. And I was more of an introvert. And when I started studying NLP, I started to understand different tangible concepts such as modeling and anchoring. And I'll give you an example. And I've given this one before, and it's a little goofy, but it worked for me. When I first started doing modeling, when I got to Wall Street, I was a little intimidated. Here I was in a boardroom full of 200 veteran brokers. Like, who's this rookie? And I began to study NLP, and I started studying and modeling one of my favorite characters in movies, James Bond. And the reason being is because when I think of 007, I just think of a cool, calm, collective, confident cat. And I needed that at the time when I was a fish out of water on Wall Street. And so I started modeling him on a deep level. I don't mean just like think about him. I mean like embody him, how he walks, how he talks. Would he care if a prospect on the phone said no? He probably would not, because he's too confident for that. And ultimately, the quality of his thoughts. And so where I used to see a little bit of limitation, now I was thinking like how James Bond would. And very quickly, my results were staggering. I started to become the top producer at my company within 6 months. And I was so blown away by it seems simple, but such an effective pattern to be able to model someone you hold in high regard. And then you can use some of their attributes to succeed in other areas. And another one that I did was anchoring. And what that is it gives you the ability to anchor a great state from your past. So like, for example, me, when I crossed the finish line of my first marathon, and then ultimately, hang on one second. So anchoring a great state from the past, and then you can bring that to the present, and you can elevate your state right on the spot on a deep level. And as you know, from an elevated state, you can do almost anything. And from a lowered state, it's kind of the opposite. So when I was introduced to some of these concepts, the results in different parts of my life were absolutely staggering.
So I love the modeling side. I find a lot of people model the wrong types of people.
Agreed.
They're like, hey, I want that guy with the big, gold disc, or with the nice car. And it's interesting that most people don't build the company where there's residual coming, where you can buy the car with the nice residual. They go buy they go make some money and then buy the car, and then they're indebted to the car now.
Yep.
What if you were to look at a couple people today, or like the people that stand out to me today are Like Will Smith, rocking.